talk about them. What's up, Titans? Let me start off by saying that we are in a safe, controlled area. We at the gun range, let's do it. It's a beautiful day. We out at the range. And today we're gonna discuss a hot topic this year, suppressors. So today we're going to talk about suppressors. I got some of my favorites out here, some of my favorite suppressor hosts, and a couple of suppressors to go with them. So let's get into it. We got 3 suppressors out here. One is the CMMG 046. It's supposed to be an all-purpose suppressor. Then the one in the middle is a 22 specific suppressor, so it's only for 22 caliber, which we won't shoot 22 out of the 046. It's only for centerfire. And then the last one is a 9mm suppressor, and it looks a lot longer than the other two because, well, it's a longer can anyway, but it also has a booster on it, also known as a Nelson device or a pistol. For the suppressor host today, we're going to use a couple of carbines. We have the Ruger 1022. Also have the Ruger 9mm. And for the 10mm, we're going to use the High Peasy carbine. I know it don't look like a high point, but it is. It's just tricked out. And then for the 9mm, other 9mm, we're gonna use a 9mm carbine. So what most people don't know about suppressors is that they are legal, and as of January 1st, 2026, the $200 stamp tax fee was removed, so now you only have to pay for the suppressor itself. Another thing people don't realize is that just putting a suppressor on a firearm does not make it quiet. So you also have to have ammunition that is subsonic. So subsonic ammunition is basically ammunition that travels less than 1,100 feet per second. So you have some ammo that you have to get the subsonic version of because the normal version of it is supersonic, which means it travels faster than 1,100 feet per second. And then you have some calibers that are inherently subsonic, like the 40 Smith & Wesson. It travels at 1,040, 50 feet per second, so that's under 1,100, so it's automatically subsonic. 45 caliber handguns, I think 45 travels at about 960 feet per second, so it's inherently subsonic as well. So let's get into it. All right, we're gonna start with the smallest caliber first. When you think of suppressors, 22s is often what comes to mind because 22 is the easiest to suppress. Basically, when you're using subsonic 22, it sounds similar to a pellet gun, but this first 10 rounds is gonna be supersonic ammo. So, and we're shooting at a target about 100 yards away. Clear. All right, that was supersonic. Now we're gonna load up some subsonic and we'll put the suppressor on. All right, now we got 10 rounds of subsonic ammo, and we also have added the suppressor to the end. So So you notice quite a sound difference between the subsonic and the supersonic. We did have one failure to eject on the first round. Unfortunately, sometimes that's pretty common when you suppress, because what's happening is a lot of those gases aren't able to escape. So you might not get a full action like you would if it was unsuppressed. Also, with 22 long rifle, it's a rimfire cartridge, so sometimes you might get a light primer strike, or you might get a failure to eject. That's why it's not known as a good self-defense round, because it's not as reliable. Although out of something like this, it is pretty reliable. We do still have those issues. All right, next up, we're gonna do the dedicated 9mm out of the IPZ carbine. We got supersonic rounds loaded up, 9mm. Let's see what we got here. All right. Rounds, supersonic. Okay, now we got the subsonic loaded up, got the suppressor on the end. So let's see what we got here. all clear. So as you can see, the 9mm center fire, a little bit more reliable, especially out of the high PZ carbine. I know High Point has a bad reputation, but the carbines are really reliable. Don't get many failures out of those. You can tell the sound difference between the subsonic and the supersonic, suppressed and unsuppressed. So we'll be moving on to the next one. All right, next up we're gonna do the Ruger PC Charger unsuppressed supersonic ammo. This one does have a special trigger in it, but we're gonna go straight semi-auto. All right, so this is the supersonic. Okay, now we're gonna go with the subsonic. The only difference on this one, instead of using the dedicated 9mm suppressor, we're gonna use the all-purpose 46 can and see if it makes a difference as far as suppression. Theoretically, it shouldn't suppress it as much because the opening at the end is larger, so it's gonna let more gases escape, but we'll let you guys be the judge of that. All right, last but not least, we're gonna do the 40 cal. Even though the carbine that we're shooting it out of is a 10mm, you can actually shoot 40 out of a 10mm because 10mm is basically like a 40 Magnum. It's just a longer cartridge with more powder, same bullet, same diameter. So we'll be shooting that out of the High Point 10mm. All right, here we go. All right, so we loaded up another 10. If you remember earlier, the 40 is already subsonic, so we don't have to use a different ammo. We use the same ammo, but we got the 46 can on there. So let's see if that suppressor works. The one noticeable difference about shooting this 40 was the gas is coming back at you. So, but the suppressor definitely did its job. So in conclusion, suppressors, I mean, they do what they're supposed to do, but you got to take into consideration the other factors like the ammunition that you're using for the caliber, the expectations for that caliber. The 40, it was suppressed, but it wasn't as quiet as, say, the subsonic 9, or definitely not the subsonic 22. So, I mean, obviously your best suppression is going to come on that 22 as far as handgun calibers go. Now, when you get into larger rifles like your 223s, 5.56, 300 blackout, stuff like that, 300 blackout is probably going to give you the best suppression. And let's talk about what makes the round subsonic. So basically, the round is subsonic because of a heavier bullet weight, which means it's traveling at a lower speed. So like the 9mm, normal 9mm, I say on average, full metal jacket is about 115 grain bullet. When you do it suppressed, the subsonic ammo is somewhere around 147 grain bullet. So, it's quite heavier, and that's why it travels slower, thus making it subsonic. So I hope you learned something today, man. Tune in for more days at the range like this. I'm your guy, Dre King. Peace.